I think the way Zuiki is going about releasing the Sharp X68000Z has been fairly interesting. We've been keeping an eye on this since before it was even announced, when they were first just teasing it, and nobody was 100% if it was going to release or if it was an actual real product type of thing. But obviously it is, right? So they have this timeline of events that's going on. And the first thing was going to be the phase with the Hackers Edition. And we covered that. We talked about that. There's a whole application you had to fill out to be able to participate in that. Essentially, it's like a test, like you're beta testing the unit type of thing. But they were looking for people with Linux experience. And if you read the fine print, which some people translated and found out for me, was that it was just for Japanese residents. So if you were outside of Japan and applied, chances are they weren't even going to consider you. But who knows? You never know for sure with these things. But it did specifically state just for Japan. But now, since the Hackers Edition campaign to recruit people has ended, I believe it was yesterday that they cut it off. They now made another announcement concerning the Early Access Edition. So they do have some new information on their website. I crack up every time I see this. Even if one dot is different, I will cut my stomach. People taking this shit way too serious. But I want to go ahead and take a look at where we're at now with this timeline of events, because there's some things you may want to know, and it could like kind of spill the beans for the future of the project, the actual product, how much it's going to cost, that kind of thing. Give you a good idea of what to expect maybe as far as what the actual build is. So Phase 0 is that Hackers Edition, which has concluded. I don't know how many people they accepted into that. And then Phase 1 is the Early Access Kit, and that's what they just announced, and we'll see the timeline for that in a second. That's going to have the Beta 2 version emulator, which is going to be after the Hacker Edition, like testing, feedback they get from that. So they'll have like, that beta version, and this is going to be a new beta version in the Early Access Kit. And it will, the Early Access one will have some games that you could play on it type of thing. So after that and all this other stuff they're going to do, the Black model will release. That's Phase 2. And that seems like that's the final like mass marketed product in Japan type of thing that hopefully we can just easily import from Play Asia or Amazon Japan type of thing, right? Because the Sharp X68000, a lot of us know about it. A lot of us have emulated some of these games and are aware of the history behind it, but this is not a device that was released anywhere else type of thing. But hey, I mean, a lot of us love this kind of stuff. I've imported plenty of products from Japan that weren't released here, and it's just kind of cool to mess around with. But this time, I think I may be out. Especially this early access one. But here's where they mention the Hackers Edition. In order to accelerate the development of Hackers Edition up to the Early Access Kit, we're looking for monitoring participants. So the recruitment has ended. They got their applications, and then they're going to be getting the feedback from the Hackers Edition. And then the Early Access Kit is scheduled to be released around spring 2023. The Black model, which is the final one, will be released according to the response to the Early Access Kit. So it looks like the Hackers Edition is like a select few people. Then the Early Access one is going to be a wider group of people who buy this thing, who back it, right? Because it looks like it's going to be a crowdfunding campaign, essentially. So about the Early Access Kit, what would have happened if the X68000 had continued to evolve into present day? They're talking about people who still had one or still has one, admire it. Essentially like, hey, this is keeping the system alive type of thing. So the Early Access Kit's the first step to provide it to everyone. The main body reflects the opinions of those who participate in the Hackers Edition as a monitor. This is all translated from Japanese, so it's kind of Google Translate kind of funks some things up, right? So it's going to have the Beta 2 version of the emulator. It is possible to operate the assets at the time via the main unit, via the included SD card. In addition, since the Masterpiece game at the time is bundled, even if you do not have the ROM at that time, you can play. I don't know exactly what that means, but there's supposed to be some built-in stuff that you could play. So they'll also launch a community site. In addition to soliciting opinions on the product, it's also intended to promote the revitalization of the X68000 culture. We will give shape to everyone's thoughts with the keyword, make something that doesn't exist, make it if it doesn't exist. Okay. I still think that might be, because that was like worded up there somewhere, and I think we read that the last time, and I was like, I think that might be a slight mistranslation, right? So here we go. Some of these pictures were already on here, putting in the SD card, but then once we get down, there is a little bit more information. Got some pictures. They show the actual board in there with the Zuiki Z7213 system on a chip. So these guys, they do make their own chips, their own boards. They've been involved in a lot of recent mini consoles and arcade stuff with Sega, the Egret 2 Mini, the Astro City Mini, that kind of thing, Genesis Mini. They've been involved quite a bit. They know what they're doing with these boards, is what I'm getting at, right? So you have a UART terminal, HDMI port, 4 USBs, USB Type-C for power. That's a good thing. SD card to add games, so you pop in SD cards with games. That's dope. Like, if it just works, like you have the ROM, you pop it in there and you can play it, that's cool, man. A volume knob, the power switch, headphone jack. Very cool. And then you got the mouse here, trackball stand. You can also use the trackball, turn it, like, you know, it's got different functionality here. It has a optical sensor this time. You have a switch on the keyboard to use it on Windows or on the X68000 here. And then mechanical switches for the keyboard. So it looks like they're going premium here. Maybe that's why the price point is kind of high when you see this, right? So light up keys on some of the functions and whatnot, caps, print screen, scroll lock, the insert button, home button, Windows, win key. Windows keys look like they might light up. Same layout as the X68000, the LEDs installed in the same position as at the time. Added the control key. So they, you know, making sure that the functionality can be used across platforms, right? Product specifications. So they have the architecture listed here. It's the Zuiki Z7213 is an ARM-based SoC that uses a quad-core Cortex A7 architecture Mali 400 GPU. So they go on to state that this system on a chip has a track record of being adopted in multiple retro mini game machines because, yes, the Z7213 has been used in the Genesis or Mega Drive Mini 1 and 2. There's slight variances in specs on both of them, but it is the same system on a chip. And the specs here, the quad Cortex A7 architecture, Mali 400 GPU, same stuff that was used in the Super Nintendo and NES Minis. So put those into perspective, the price that you paid for those if you bought them, right? Now, we'll get more into that in a second. This is kind of nuts, but maybe it's just because it's the early access kit. I don't know. But memory, we have DDR3, 512 megabytes. Storage, NAND 512, which is same as Genesis Mini 1, but the Mini 2 had 8 gigabytes of storage. And then USB-C for power, 5 volt, 3 amp. And then just some other basic stuff. These are the bundled items. You get the main body, the mouse, the keyboard, HDMI cable, USB Type-C to Type-C, and the dedicated SD card. They go over, weight on everything, how many grams all that stuff is, and then some special thanks down here. And that is pretty much it. So I went to the PR Times Japan to take a look at what they had to say here. This is Google translated from Japanese to English. So some things may be a little wonky, but they state that they're going to be doing this through a crowdfunding website for this early access kit, right? It says it starts December 3rd, just a couple days away from the recording of this video. And you purchase it through that, and that's what you get. You get this kit. That's what the reward is. Recruitment starts at $1,900, December 3rd, ends $2,359 on January 28th. These are Japanese times. The amount of support will be 49,500 yen. That converts to the exchange rate, may be different by the time you see this. It's always changing. But I believe when I did the math earlier, that was between 360 to 370 US dollars. That is a lot of freaking money for a Genesis Mini that's been reshelled and comes with a mouse and a keyboard. It's a premium keyboard, though. But that's a lot of money. I know it's going to have different software, different emulator type of thing, SD card reader, all that good stuff. But holy crap, man. I'm hoping that's just like, hey, this is just, you're paying for the privilege to be part of this at this point. And then the final one that comes out, that's like, sold at Amazon Japan, hopefully that one's going to be cheaper, but we don't know for sure. It could be crazy when the final one comes out. Maybe this is just, you're paying for the privilege to be a part of this testing period, right? The early access version where they want to get feedback to shape the final one, right? So maybe that's what it is. But then it goes on to state that a total of 668 units, approximately 33 million yen, will be applied. I don't know exactly what that means, if it means what it sounds like, or if it means like, hey, that's what the like what they have to be successful in the crowdfunding, or if that's all they're going to produce. I'm not sure, because why would it go on for that long just for 668 units? But who knows? So the crowdfunding campaign is on Kibidango. It's a Japanese crowdfunding site, so I don't know if you're outside of Japan if you can participate or not, but I will put a link down below. This goes over a lot of the same information that we've already looked at. Why crowdfunding, though? We received a great reaction on Twitter and the internet. Even now, we still hear from many people who express their joy. I want you to make sure that the system is properly delivered. So essentially, they're just saying they want to utilize this, I guess, to get feedback and, get people involved to produce a better product, right? That's about it. It says that it will include some games that they'll announce later on, that type of thing. And that is pretty much it. But if you want to scrub through this and look at even more information, I'll put a link down below. But yeah, in the end, I mean, overall, I'm not 100% if I'm going to be on board with this thing. The crowdfunding, possibly not, just because it's Japanese crowdfunding. But when the final version comes out, I mean, I would hope the price point would be reasonable, and it's going to be able to be utilized by people who don't understand Japanese. But this is a product that's geared towards the Japanese market, so you never know. But yeah, it's going to have that emulator built in. You could load up games, make your own games, play the bundled games type of thing. And what they're looking at with this early access thing is just simply to make a better product in the end. And I think that's interesting, the way that they've been going about it. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, them wanting to produce something that the market who's interested in it actually enjoys, and they want to make it the best that they can. So kind of interesting the way they're going about it. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Bye.